Okay, munchkin butts, potato heads, sweet peas, and hello. Today's date is 9/29/2021, and my name is Leslie Williams. I'm telling you the truth. Baby cakes, munchkin butts, and sweethearts. This video is going to be a video in order to try and outlay a mathematical concept in order so that you might be able to see possibly some creative thinking related to entrapping a bunch of gang-stalking hoes. Hold on a second. Oh, absolutely. Now, I apologize for my brief comical posture, but if you had any idea about the complete craziness that most gang-stalking victims go through, if we don't laugh, we'll end up, well, just scratch that statement. All right, check it out. What I found to do in this video, stay with this video, trust me, because I think what you're about ready to hear is going to be a display to you pertaining to the organization of thoughts and nonlinear entrapment. So pay attention closely. Yeah. So, if you don't know anything about this crime, baby cakes and sweethearts and munchkin butts, there's tens and tens of thousands of posts concerning it. In fact, there's even millions of posts concerning it. Oh, absolutely. I mean, all you got to do is go to Google and type in organized stalking, gang stalking, targeted individuals, TI for short, and scrutinize the material that comes up. Educate yourself. Okay? And I strongly suggest you research this crime with a patient, mature posture and cross-reference the data that comes up from each description, and eventually you'll be able to see the construct of gang stalking so that you can deconstruct the mystery attached to it. Because there's a lot of psychological disorientation pertaining to this crime, because there's a lot of psychological operations in play. Now, so, let me introduce you to two concepts by their name. One is called, and trust me when I say, when you hear it, you might think to yourself, well, I don't understand that term at all, so how can I understand what she might be saying related to it? I'm going to break it down in extremely fast layman's terms. And trust me when I say, just because you hear these terms does not mean it's extremely sophisticated, because it's really not. I mean, when you really break down this crime, you'll see at the end of the day, it's nothing but a flow-charted decision tree modeling of a bunch of techniques, tactics, and methods that are intentionally perpetrated either in a nonlinear way or in a sequential way or both, so that the effects of the techniques and methods can be then monopolized on later for exploitation. So what I do is I not only expose these criminal maniacs for what they are, so that the public can become educated, therefore they're able to make informed decisions about how to protect themselves, their families, and their properties. We can then be able to determine that if you apply topological social sets and not theory, stay with me, don't go nowhere, baby cakes, because what you're about ready to hear is going to blow your mind. Flat out. So check this out. I have literally never, let me backtrack on that. I think I've only opened up a book concerning topology once. And the reason why that particular term grabbed my attention way back in Michigan was because I could see it with my mind's eye. Most people don't know, and that's okay that you don't know, but I think you'll be able to understand because you're going to be able to identify with the following statements. The left brain does most of its thinking through language. Hey, that's a little lassie. Yep. What's his name? So, the left brain is responsible for a lot of different features and functions ratio to the right hemisphere. So I'm just going to give you a brief little description here. The left brain processes information through language. When the human being, from kindergarten up through the 12th grade, they start to understand what the alphabet is. Okay, words have meanings, and then when you compose sentences into, and when you compose words into structured sentences, those sentences have meanings, paragraphs have meanings, narratives have meaning, and what I'm going to do in this video is basically frame the narrative by introducing to you in a foundational sequential process. So you'll be able to understand the attributes of each, and as a result, you'll be able to understand you'll understand the summary. Well, let me backtrack on that. You'll understand the subject matter. So, topological to me stuck out because topological is somewhat of a pictorial representation to it, which is right brain thinking. A lot of times we will do our thinking with our right brain in pictures because a lot of words have pictorial meanings. Like a fire truck. A fire truck has a pictorial meaning And since a fire truck is a word, then we can obviously say and deduce that, well, since a fire truck is a noun, person, place, or thing, it's also got a pictorial image connected to it. So, as a direct result, whenever you hear the word fire truck, your brain is going to kick into right brain mode. It's going to show you a visual representation of what one looks like, and that is pictorial thinking, in part. Now, when I ran across the term topological, including topological social sets, it was very easy for me to incorporate my general understanding of that term, because gang stalking crimes do nothing but repeat identical behaviors in a cyclic, rotating, perpetual way. Okay, which is done for brain entrainment. Okay, visual and auditorial. Oh, absolutely. So just hear me out. Pattern recognition is a huge aspect of this crime. That's right, baby cakes, munchkin butts, and sweethearts, because if they cannot form an anchored association between the victim and the crime itself, then how is the victim going to recognize that the crime is being repeated? Because gang stalking uses very specific yet unique, types of methodologies and techniques. And so what we do is we break this shit down so we can expose the animals for what they are, animals. So anyways, so when you look at the word topology usually has a general understanding that if you take a hierarchy or something and then you look at all the features and attributes of it, you'll be able to then eventually come to a conclusion concerning it. So just do a brief research into topological social sets. Social sets in gang stalking crimes can be referred to and related to the patterns that are intentionally formed and anchored in the victim's mind to this crime. That's right, baby cakes and munchkin butts, because again, patterns are needed. Research the sensitization method of gang stalking, the direct conversation method of gang stalking, DNLP and gang stalking, and I think you'll start to understand what I mean. In order for any entrainment to take place, they've got to be able to anchor specific patterns of behaviors, actions, sounds, words, phrases, physical gestures, certain types of people, certain actions that they engage in, and these are the patterns. The patterns then act as a mental inference, an implied message every time the victim sees what's repeated. So there's your patternization connected to gang stalking. Mind pattern programming is what is eventually formed, and then you achieve the entrainment. So it is my goal in order to not only introduce these things to you, and trust me when I say, baby cakes, when you research what I state, you'll see how relevant these issues are. So what I'm going to do right now, I've already introduced you to a concept of topological social sets, because in a set of specific behaviors, okay, we can look at its structure and its implementation. Its structure is a person, place, or thing, a noun, and since a lot of the behaviors have actions involved into it, you can also consider it a verb. So, all right, hold on. So when we look at social sets, most people engage in person, places, or things, and actions. So keeping that in mind, because that's what this crime does, it perpetrates itself in every way that it can possibly conclude. Oh, absolutely, more than you know. So then, if you, I'll expand on that description here in a minute. What I'm going to segue into now is knot theory connected to mathematics. So as soon as I can find a rubber band that's all twisted up, I think I'll be able to give you a pictorial representation concerning what it is. So this right here is a rubber band. You can see that it's inside the inner part of the rubber band. Like right there is a rubber band, but you see it in a circle form. This is a rubber band, one rubber band, but it's been twisted up into a knot. But when you see it twisted up into a knot, you can see that the inner part of the rubber band is folded onto the outer parts. Okay? So what this does is this creates a knot. So when you look at knot theory and mathematics, I think you can start to see a little tidbit of what its meaning really is. Meaning that, but not limited to, what's one of the biggest things that gang stalking crimes do? It intentionally, in order for it to create the patternization through its techniques, mind pattern programming, the victim recognizing everything that's done, a pattern of thinking results, a pattern of emotions are induced, and there's the entrainment. Now, in order for that to take place, this crime has got to use several different places, and pretty much all places the victim can go to, and several amounts of different people, including even fire department personnel, not specifically them. The point being is that When you have community-based harassment connected to gang stalking crimes, since gang stalking has to perpetrate identical crimes against you, using a whole slew of different identical methods, tactics, techniques, and maneuvers, and schemes, and relationships, and dupe dum-dums, then I think then I think that we can start to see that when one place is used, like a library, a university, a grocery store, a bank, a post office, when all these different places are used to repeat the same exact identical behaviors, we got one rubber band twisted upon itself. Where the whole, so if you were to look at, like, just hear me out. If you were to look at this rubber band, it's one circle. It's got closed ends. So, but it's also, the crime of gang stalking is nothing but a non-stop circular perpetrated crime where they just repeat the same shit over and over and over again, and they can repeat 30, 40, 45, 50 different techniques, but it's still part of the same crime. In order to create neural looped pathways, neural trauma looped pathways, the victim's brain has to be attenuated to specific sounds, words, phrases, physical gestures, color coding, and the whole 9 yards. That's what creates the entrainment. But since the crime itself repeats the identical behaviors to create the entrained looped pathway, everywhere the victim goes the subject has to be forced to experience their identical repeated behaviors. So could knot theory be connected to this? So this is a rubber band, and what you do is that when you crinkle it up, baby cakes, just bear with me, you'll see what I mean here in a minute. So when you crinkle up this rubber band, it's got closed ends, okay? Just like that rubber band right there. It's not open in any way. You take a rubber band, you twirl it up in your hands, and then you go like this. What do you got? You got parts of it touching each other, okay? So what do you think that means in gang stalking and knot theory? And employing knot theory mathematical concepts into this crime in order to entrap a bunch of gang stalking, human trafficking, mass murdering, raping, gang raping animals. What you do is you throw one into the other. Because these little wild whores have to work in a cooperating, synchronized relationship in order to intentionally perpetrate the same exact identical crimes everywhere the victim goes. So if the victim predicts in a tweet, I'm going to go here, and let's see if my tape recorder picks up the same exact identical thing that I picked up at the bank 2 weeks before, well then what you're basically doing is you're seeing this crime buying through its identical techniques, one place touching the other. Okay? One place touching the other because it's the same crime, the same host, who's managing the identical techniques at each place. So you can throw these little wild animals into each other. You can throw these little sadistic whores into each other by establishing and proving the identical patterns of behaviors that you're enduring everywhere you go. Because I don't know about you, sweethearts and baby cakes, but you literally got a better chance at winning a multi-billion-dollar lottery 5 times in 1 week, choosing random numbers, than a person being able to predict 8,700 audio files of identical verbal harassment caught. Okay, 9 predicted brutal assaults that were staged and predicted. I'm sorry, predicted and then staged. Absolutely. I mean, because, when you think about this crime, in all of its ways that it perpetrates itself, you can see that this crime is a program, and it basically perpetrates itself by intentionally forcing and affecting the techniques and methods onto each victim. Do you think it's an accident that in gang stalking crimes, that the sensitization method, the direct conversation method, dark neurolinguistic programming, DNLP, is perpetrated against all victims every day, everywhere they go, everywhere they live, nonstop, every day of every week, of every month, of every year, for decades at a time? Anybody with 2 brain cells would be able to deduce it's a program. Tens of thousands reporting these types of techniques and much more. So if you got, let's look at this in a smart way as well. Say you've got 10 people who have never met each other, and then they all come into a classroom, and they're talking to a professor. And they all share the same story, yet they've never talked to each other, they've never met, they've never shared any information in any way, shape, or form. Do you really believe those 10 people are accidentally sharing the same story because of no reason? No reason whatsoever? Think about what I'm saying, okay? Because there's no way that 10 strangers can share the same exact identical story. Each story is like not only identical, but they're describing very unique, specific types of techniques, behaviors, and methods that are not normally in your everyday social environments. Because gang stalking is a constructed crime using specific techniques, methods, and tactics. In other words, it's not your everyday social fabric of general normal life and what generally normally goes on in life's environments. Okay? It's a construct that is propped up within the environments, purposely, specifically, intentionally. There are your topological social sets of behaviors that are intentionally affected upon the victim and every aspect of their lives. No matter how much they want to mask what they do and try to apply another normal apparent excuse, reason, or mishap to any and all things that the victim endures, understand and be clear. The human mind is very creative. It is very creative. It knows exactly what it's enduring and why. So it's very easy to entrap a whore in its own techniques just by looking at the construct of their mentality and their techniques and folding them in onto each other. Not theory. There is no way a gang stalking victim can experience identical verbal harassment at every single place they've went and every single place they've lived, caught on 8,700 audio files, unless one satanic little freak, without a satanic little freak managing and hosting it. Because remember, all their techniques are unique and specific, and they fall outside of the normal social behaviors that go on in any and all environments. They're purposely perpetrated in specific, unique ways that fall outside of your everyday, normal, healthy social environments. Therefore, since it uses identical behaviors, what you do is predict what they're going to do before you get to a place that you go to. You then catch what they do on video and or audio, and as a direct result of you catching it, you expose it. I don't know about you, but think about this. Say if you go to a grocery store, and while you're at a grocery store, let's say if you, at a grocery store, all right, let me backtrack for a second because I got distracted with something. So say if you're at a grocery store, say if you're at a bank, you're minding your own business, and some dumbass dweeb comes up to you, stands around you and says, gang stalk, oh my God, or gang stalk, oh my God, suck dick. At 9:50 a.m. on June 1st, 2020. Yet at 7 a.m. on June 1st, 2020, in a separate area, you put a tweet on Twitter stating that you were going to catch it before you got there. Your tape recorder that catches it runs by electronic time and date stamp, and so do tweets on Twitter. Now, you got a better chance at winning a multi-billion-dollar lottery than that being an accident. So consider that being done over 8,700 times. Predicting it in YouTube videos, Periscope videos, tweets on Twitter, and much, 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 much more. And then you catch it. Anybody with 2 brain cells would say to themselves, okay, so the victim caught it at one place, occurring several hundred times, but then when they went to the bank, post office, grocery store, laundromat, movie theater, dentist office, social services, and every other place they've been to, then what you are doing then is you are throwing the whole crime onto itself. Because any lying, criminally insane, organized crime, human trafficking, mass murdering, filthy animal, organized crime police department who sits back and tells you to your face you're not enduring this crime, allows you to remain victimized concerning it day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year, including staged robberies, staged assaults, staged rapes, forced homelessness, and everything else. To me, that ain't nothing but a wild animal. And what I do is entrap wild animals by using topological social sets and not theory. Every human being on this planet has a right to live free and not be victimized by anybody, cops included. Okay? Every human being on this planet has a right to live free without being victimized by anybody. Yet, the system believes it's got a right to do anything and everything it wants against anybody, walk away scot-free, and if you protest about it, if you get up and protest in any way, okay, they'll call you insane, they'll lock you up in a jail or a psychiatric ward. Does that not sound like the type of people that need to be locked up in a psychiatric ward? Of course it does. Because if they can do this to me and my fellow tens of thousands of gang stalking victims, they can do it to you on any date, anywhere, at any time. Thank you for listening. So now you're seeing a little bit of tidbits of truth. Okay? Think about what I'm saying. Stay tuned, because after I upload this video over time, I will be putting massive evidences within the description so you can scrutinize them and see it for what it is. That's right, baby cakes. Just think about how well our community would be if we didn't have wild criminals running around with the pathology that I will do anything I want to anybody I want at any time I want, and what are you going to do about it? Because at the end of the day, that is literally their pathology. Have a good day, everybody.